Well, good day, everybody. It's Wednesday again, and time for the next part of my Going Global Facebook Live presentation series. It's not quite the top of the hour. In fact, I think it's just clicked onto the top of the hour. So we're going to get straight into this as people catch up and join with us. I thought long and hard before I decided to make this presentation today, and I'm still thinking about whether I'm going to give you a part 2 next week or whether I'm not. And the reason for that is today's presentation contains material that's so powerful that it's controversial. In fact, it's so controversial and so powerful that previously I've only ever shared this stuff with select members of my inner circle, clients that have invested anywhere between $5,000 and $7,500 to work with me. And I'm about to teach you guys what I taught them. In fact, if you get the foundation that I'm going to lay tonight, you'll know exactly how to control and direct your prospects' thoughts so their decision to buy from you becomes subliminal. That means you'll get underneath their level of consciousness. That means you'll affect their thought process without them even being aware of it. And you say, oh, well, that might well be all but guaranteed. And if I decide to give you the final solution next week, when it comes to your sales, your business will become invincible. See, this stuff really is that powerful, and it works in any niche and in any relationship. And in fact, it works wherever and whenever you interact with another human being or any groups of human beings. And that can be a good thing, or it could be very dangerous, which is why I'm still not sure whether I'm going to reveal part 2 next week. And that's entirely up to you. You have to tell me you want it. You need to put I want now. You have to put I need part 2 in the comments, or send me a message. And if I get comments, then I'll see. I might just use a Zoom link and only invite a select few, people that I trust. And I'm going to say this, people that I know to be men or women of integrity. But all that notwithstanding, what I'm going to teach you tonight is going to rock your world. Now, the Emperor of Rome, and therefore the world, between 161 and 180 AD, was a guy called Marcus Aurelius. And apart from being emperor, he was also known for his Stoic philosophy. He studied Stoicism. And he's best known for a work he wrote called Meditations. And I said all that to get to this quote as the basis for today's teaching. The controlling intelligence understands its own nature and what it does and whereon it works. I'll say that again. The controlling intelligence understands its own nature, what it does, and whereon it works. All right, so let's get into this. For each of the 9 mind control hacks I'm going to give you the hack. I'm going to give you the absolute truth about the hack. I'm going to give you a sales application, and I'm going to give you a specific action to take with regards to that hack. So I'm going to give you 4 things for each of the 9. Now, obviously, if we were working one-on-one and I was guiding you, we could spend a good full session or 2 on each of these 9 hacks. This would take a couple of months for us to get through and work through. But what I'm going to give you is more than an overview. I'm going to give you some very specific truths, applications, and actions that you can take. And if you start taking them as soon as later today or tomorrow, it will change your business. And don't worry if you can't get it all down, and I know you want to, you can always watch the replay, and I'm going to post a transcript over on my Patreon channel tomorrow. Now, that's not going to be neat typewritten stuff like a report. That's just going to be my notes, bullet points and all. But I will post the transcript over on the channel tomorrow, so you can always download it if you want to. So let's start very gently with psychological mind control hack number 1. And that's this. People, that's you and me, people like to blend in with the crowd. Now, I don't care whether you're male or female, young or old, I guarantee that just like sheep, cows, and chimpanzees, your natural tendency, your inclination is to follow the crowd. It's to blend in. It's the way that your brain is wired. And you do this both in terms of what you think, those are your opinions, and what you do, those are the actions that you take. Now, here's the absolute truth. Human beings, like sheep and cows and chimpanzees, have a predisposition to follow the herd, both in terms of action and opinion. The sales application is this: identify and then clearly define your herd, your people group, and then influence future herd members. How do you do that? Well, that's social proof. We think of things like testimonials and case studies and success stories. Here's some social proof. This is a thing that I just wrote for this presentation, but nevertheless, it's legit. Chris Law is a marketing genius. He made a video, launched it on a Monday. He had 80 leads in 28 hours and 220 leads in just 2 days. Now, Chris is a friend of mine, and both he and I know that he can back up that claim because he played it out real time in his private Facebook group. So what's the specific action you should take? Well, be very aggressive and compile all the information you can about your audience and your tribe, and then display that information in a way that everybody can see it. If you don't have a tribe, then you need to create one. Make happy customers, make friends in discussion groups and chat rooms, and you do that by creating a unique and superb service, a service that exceeds all their expectations and in every way wows your customers. And when you do that, you'll very quickly generate a tribe worth boasting about. Hello, Stanley, better late than never. Here's the key term, the word herd or group or tribe, any group that moves together. Whether it's human beings or sheep or cattle, for example, we all move in the same direction at the same time. Your herd or your tribe is your happy customer base, and other people will follow that herd once they know it exists. Once people know that you exist, they'll join your audience or your tribe. Just to show that I don't teach you people stuff that I don't do myself, this is what I posted on a couple of my pages, 10, 12 hours ago. How do I play the game in 2018? Simply this. Number one, I build my tribe or audience, read herd, on a daily basis. I tell them who I am. I use my personal Facebook profile. I have a newsletter and a couple of platforms to do that. See, this is about the who and the what, no more than that. Then next, step two, I have an ongoing process of engagement. That means I talk to my people. That means I build my brand. I build trust. And that's all about the how. Now, the fact that you're watching this now and it's all about the how means that my system of engaging with my tribe is working. And I give the people opportunity to reach out to me, and when they do, they buy my high-ticket services and my products. And you know what? I never, ever change this two-step approach. I never run ads for myself. I never go looking for potential clients. I just follow my two-step process day in, day out, relentlessly, and it works. All right, now we're going to dig a bit deeper. Psychological mind control hack number 2, total obedience. People like to be given direction. People respond well when they're told what to do. As a counselor, as a therapist for 20 odd years, if people came to me, they were having problems with a family member or with children or with colleagues or whatever, I'd tell them this: set a boundary, a healthy boundary, and then enforce it, and then tell people how to respond. Here's the absolute truth. Whenever an authority figure that we recognize, and it's important that we recognize, whenever an authority figure that we recognize gives an order, we're programmed to obey. It's the way every military and paramilitary structure works. When a command comes out of the mouth of an authority that we recognize, we obey. Can you see where I'm going with this? So what's the sales application? Well, you have to create your own authority with your tribe, with your audience, with your herd. Because when you create your own authority with your people, then you can influence your prospects. And how to do that is something I teach with the clients that I work with one-on-one. But here's a specific action. Immediately, that means now, start positioning yourself as the authority in your field. Here's a quick way to start. Anybody can do it. Write something. See, the word authority has at its root the word author. So write a newsletter that offers helpful content to your prospects. Write a credibility book. I have a number of those. I don't only have 5 or 6 of them for myself, for my own business. I actually write credibility books for clients of mine, whether they're, brick and mortar businesses or whatever. And I've got those things done for about 50 different niches or verticals. But whatever, whether it's a newsletter or a credibility book or both, or even proper, cohesive, structured Facebook posts, then use your authority to generate revenue by recommending your products, either your own or somebody else's. That's called affiliate marketing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Be very careful though, because your authority can be trashed just as surely as it can be acquired. And if you abuse your authority by recommending products that you wouldn't use yourself, your position as an authority figure will very quickly be done. Authority will work for you incredibly well as a sales tool. Psychological mind control hack number 3, get your foot in the door. Some of these things you might think at face value are very simplistic or you've heard before, but the more time you dwell on them, the more you meditate on them, the more you let those absolute truths really sink in, process, and then come out, you'll see the power in what I'm going to teach you tonight and what I may choose to teach you next week. So number 3, get your foot in the door. Here's the absolute truth. Get somebody to agree to something small first, then it'll be much easier to get them to agree to a larger thing later on. Here's the sales application. Use simple but seductive hooks to draw prospects into your sales process. See, the hook can't ever obligate them in any way, because if it does, it's going to scare them off. And I was talking to about this very thing to Chris Bloor again last week. He's got a very unique take on exactly this. He says, make your bonus the offer. In other words, the thing that you do, that your product, your service, don't make it the upfront thing, make it the bonus or the OTO that comes after the initial hook. Here's what he does if he's talking to an audience at a conference. As an Australian, he uses little plastic boomerangs when he speaks to an audience. And early on in his talk, his presentation, he'll say, all right, stick your hand up if you want one of my boomerangs. And some people put their hands up and some people get them and some people don't. Here's the kicker. Later on in his presentation, when he comes to the real deal, guess what? You're not eligible to buy unless, that is, you have this little plastic boomerang. You see how that works? Here's my formula, and it's the title of any live event I do. Lock and load, aim, then fire. Lock and load, aim at the target, then fire. The best example of that was ever used on me, this getting your foot in the door thing, happened to me 35 years ago. And I remember it as clearly as if it was yesterday. It was a Sunday night. It was about 6 o'clock or so. We'd done with dinner and we were just settling down for the evening, watch the TV or whatever it was, and the doorbell rang. And I opened the door to find a smartly dressed young man, and just standing there, he looked about, I guess he must have been 18 or 19, but he looked about 12. But he had a vacuum cleaner in his hand. Now, I had never, ever heard of the word Kirby before in my life. This kid said he had no car. That's what he said. And I certainly couldn't see one. And he said he had to wait about an hour for the next bus. And as it was raining, he asked if he could come in and vacuum our floor with his all singing, all dancing, newfangled cleaner thing. Those are my words, not his. And because I couldn't think of an excuse on the spur of the moment, and because it was raining and I didn't want to be rude, I agreed, and in he came. Now, ironically, he didn't make a machine sale because his machine couldn't pull any dirt from our family room carpet, which was kind of hilarious. So then he tried the curtains and he failed with them too. What he didn't understand was, you know, my other half was real house proud and she knew how to keep the house clean. So the dude didn't make the sale. He never would have anyway, but I never ever forgot the approach, how this kid gets into my front room. See, if he just offered to sell me his $900 gizmo, and 35 years ago, $900 was a serious amount of money. If he just offered to sell me this gizmo when I opened the door, I'd have closed it instantly, if not before. But when he asked if he could come in out of the rain and clean my carpet for free, he wrong-footed me, and he got through the door and into my house. So think about how you could use that and apply that to your own sales approach. If you're a lawn and pest control company, this could be an ad. In fact, this is an ad that a number of lawn and pest control companies that I've worked for actually use. Hey, we're doing free termite inspections in your neighborhood. Now, the implication, never actually stated because that would be against the law actually, But the implication is that there are termites in your street. You better make sure you don't have any. And if you don't, the pest control company will sell you the prevention treatment and a warranty. And if you do, they take care of the problem. It's win-win for the pest control company. But here's the kicker. Most people dare not invite them in just in case they do have those little blighters eating their house away from the inside. How about an ad for a roofing company? Is your home at risk? Let our residential roof specialist visit your home and carry out a free weather risk assessment ahead of the storm that's due next week. Or if you like my kid, if you're selling vacuums, be like the kid that knocks on my door. Can I vacuum your floor for free? So the sales application is analyze your product and develop a lock and load, aim at the target and fire offer. Actually, you could use that to generate subscriptions to the newsletter that you're about to go and develop. Here's psychological mind control hack number 4. People hate stuff that's not finished or complete. If something's unfinished, we can't stop thinking about it until we can bring closure. Now, I studied this a lot when I was doing my PhD. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. Back in the day, an academic researcher called Bluma Zeigarnik was fascinated by food service, the waitstaff in restaurants. And she was amazed that they could remember lengthy lists of food orders from everybody at the table. And then when the waiter brought the food back to the table, he or she would be able to match it to the right customers. And oftentimes they do all this without writing anything down. But here's the strange thing. Most waiters and waitresses struggled to remember much about the order once the food was delivered to the table. Her theory was, and this is still taught in high-level psychology classes, even today, and certainly I had to do it at the doctoral level, the new food order created a state of imbalance in the server's mind. Now, Gestalt psychology, let's not worry about it, but it's already proven that organisms move towards a state of equilibrium. And a lack of equilibrium associated with an unfulfilled task creates discomfort. And that discomfort causes that task to stay in this case, the server's memory until it's completed. Zeigarnik took it a step further. She gathered several test subjects, several waiters and waitresses, and had them perform a whole series of tasks. But she didn't let them finish all of the tasks that she gave them. And when she interviewed them, she found that the unfinished tasks were consistently remembered with a greater frequency and more intricate detail than the jobs that were completed. And in psychology, this is now called the Zeigarnik effect. And it's got a tremendous application for internet marketers. See, when you use it properly, the Zeigarnik effect provides a psychological edge to get your foot firmly in the door of any web surfer. And to keep him moving inevitably deeper into your sales process or your funnel. And you start out by telling a story that attracts a potential customer attention, and then you make him keep following in search of a satisfying conclusion. Watch TV programs, news programs, or infomercials or whatever. How many TV programs use a cliffhanger? People watch the whole program just to get to the answer at the end. 30, 40 years ago, whenever it was, the whole world was on tenterhooks for several months waiting for the new series of a program called Dallas, because everybody wanted what? We all wanted to know who shot JR. And people couldn't rest. People were talking about it at work. People were talking about it on the bus. People were talking about it. Everybody was talking about who shot JR. So imagine you're a pest control company, and there's a common household item that they tell you will eliminate all mice, and another that will keep ants away from your house. That housewife or that house owner is going to follow you until the bitter end, because they're going to be determined to find out the answer to the mystery that you place in front of them. Actually, because I've worked for several pest control companies as clients, it's peppermint for mice and blackboard chalk for ants. If you soak some cotton wool balls in peppermint oil and stick them in the cupboard under the sink and closets and other places, I guarantee you will never have a mouse in your house, because mice and rats cannot stand the smell of peppermint. If you've got a dog or a cat and you put food down in a bowl outside or inside, the way to stop any ant going to eat the food is just to take a piece of blackboard chalk or the kids' chalk that they draw pictures on the sidewalk with and draw a circle around the food bowl or the water bowl in chalk, and I guarantee no ant will ever cross that line. Anyway, that's by the by. But an unfinished story can be one of your greatest assets. You know, remember at the top I said, I may or may not give you the keys to the nuclear bomb next week. You've got to ask me for them. That's an unfinished story. That's the Zeigarnik effect. So here's the absolute truth. People are uncomfortable when something is left incomplete. The sales application, well, use this knowledge to lead people into your sales funnel. Post questions that can only be answered by reading your ad copy. I mean, oftentimes I'll say on these things, I've got a special offer or I've got something, but you have to stay with me for the whole 30 minutes or whatever it is until we get to the bottom of the presentation, and then I'll tell you what I'm going to offer you. Write copy. Questions that can only be answered by reading the ad. There are 5 killer tactics your internet business must employ immediately if you want to prosper in the next 90 days. Do you know what they are? Much less do you use all 5. Well, here's one that I use sometimes. 21 points needed to turn any website into an ATM. How many do you use? How many do you even know? And I say that because I have a lead generating funnel that's based on literally turning a website, anybody's website for any business, from a cash drain into an ATM or a money generating piece of real estate. The specific action then is to analyze your marketing efforts. Can you think of ways that you can employ the Zeigarnik effect to compel people to stick with you? And remember, the longer you keep them reading your copy, the likelihood of successful sales increases exponentially. So here's the psychological mind control hack number 5. Utopia means never having to admit you're wrong. Never having to say sorry. When I was getting my PhD, one of my favorite subjects was cognitive behavioral therapy. In essence, that means examining the link between what we think, that's the cognitive bit, and what we do, that's the action bit. And the concept is, if you change the way somebody thinks, you'll change what they do. And within that, there's a concept called cognitive dissonance. Now, don't worry about the term. It means cognitive dissonance would say happiness or utopia comes from never having to say you're sorry. Now, that's cognitive dissonance. It's a major thinking error. But if we can provide potential customers with compelling reasons and sound evidence that they're making the right choice, it becomes so much easier for them to pull the trigger and buy. So make certain that your customers have the info they need to justify their decision. And then when you do, assure them that they won't ever have to worry about being wrong. Here's the absolute truth. People are uncomfortable when their beliefs and their actions are in conflict. I could tell you so many real life stories about that. They don't want to find out that their belief system is wrong. So from a dental ad, might say 4 out of 5 dentists surveyed recommend blah, blah, blah. So were there only 5 dentists surveyed in a very specific piece of logical justification? See, notice the ad copy doesn't specify that, but people are persuaded by this crap all the time. Sales application. Make it easier for your prospects to make a buying decision by giving them reasons to do so. They'll be far more comfortable with the decision because the reasons you gave them will make it easier for them to defend their spending choices. Here's the specific action. Analyze your ad copy. Ask yourself if you provided your prospect with reasons and justifications to buy. And these reasons have to be compelling. You can use scientific data, you can use quotes from experts, you can use polling research, you can use any kind of concrete, credible information to justify a buying decision. See, when you justify decisions, and when you convince people they don't need to worry, they make the decision to pull the trigger on a subliminal level. Here's psychological mind control hack number 6. We love to conform on an emotional level. What do I mean? You smile, I smile. You cry, I cry. It's truly amazing, and it's critical to understand how we like to mirror the emotions of the people around us. Don't believe me? Just walk down any street or any shopping mall and smile at random at total strangers, and just about 100% of them are going to flash you a quick smile back. Why? Because that's the way we're wired. The absolute truth is this. People tend to mirror the emotions of the group around them. And that's the big reason why you have to have your finger on the pulse of your tribe all the time. You've got to know what they're feeling. You've got to know what they're thinking. And then you've got to speak to those emotions. What's the sales application? Well, if people associate happy images with your products, they may assume that purchasing your stuff is going to make them happy too. You know, like ads on TV, have a Coke and smile. From an insurance company, you're in safe hands. From a cleaning company, so put on the Windex shine. You know, the new lyrics for the song, put on a happy face. The specific action, when appropriate, try to incorporate a happy and upbeat tone in your ads, but do it professionally, guys. See, there is a critical balance. The emotions that you display have got to be dictated by the type of product or service you're selling. You know, don't put grins on faces if you're trying to help a funeral home sell its services. Just use your common sense. But find the value in showing visuals of emotions, whether the emotions are radiant happiness or more serene. Here's my mind control hack number 7. Yeah, it is number 7. People need satisfaction. Another big topic I had to study in school was how every need needs to be satisfied first on a psychological level and then on a physical level. Now, whilst there's a lot of models and theories behind this, I loved one in particular because it's relatively simple to apply. Many years ago, a guy called Abraham Maslow developed his theory on human motivation. It's still called Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, and there are actually 8 levels. Number 1 is a psychological level, the need for food and drink and warmth. We can't operate as human beings if we don't have something to eat, if we don't have something to drink, and if we can't maintain our core body temperature. Once we've got those down, number 2 are our safety needs. That means we have to have a place to withdraw to, a place that we can shut out the world no matter what's going on, how bad it is out there. We've got 4 walls, a ceiling and a floor and a door and drapes that we can shut. We can shut out the people out there. We can leave the attacks and the problems out there, and we've got somewhere to do the eating and the drinking and be warm. That would be a great need for a burglar alarm company to attack. Go after, speak to people's safety needs. Number 3 is love or belonging. We all need to feel loved or accepted or to belong to somebody. We need that connection to another human being. So if you were, for example, in a relationship niche, or if you were in a divorce counseling niche, then that's the need that you would go after, that you would speak to. Number 4 is esteem needs. You can't feel good about yourself until you know that somebody else on the planet somewhere feels good about you. You can't love yourself until you know that somebody else loves you. Now, those first 4 needs, if you like, they're what we call deficiency needs. Number 5 is cognitive needs, and mental stuff. Number 6, aesthetic needs. 7, self-actualization, and 8, transcendence. Those last 4 are growth needs, and I'm not going to go into them on this presentation. That's more in-depth one-on-one stuff. But anyway, so the question is this. Now, having talked about that, particularly the 4 deficit or deficiency needs, where is your herd? Where is your tribe? Which needs do your product or service need to meet? Deficiency needs or growth needs? Because once you get these things down, then you're in a position to write good copy. Now, Maslow argued that all human action, that's everything we do, is either directly or indirectly focused on pursuing the satisfaction of those needs. In other words, everything we do, directly or indirectly, is moving us towards getting a result, meeting the needs. And these needs have a definite hierarchy or a ladder, and it's kind of like an email ascension series. For those of you who know what I'm talking about, it's only when we satisfy the most basic needs on the scale that we can start working on the next rung of the ladder, which is a more sophisticated need. But you have to satisfy the need psychologically before you can ever satisfy it physically, because otherwise the physical satisfaction will just evaporate. Think of every decision and every action that we take in life. When you step back and really analyze it, it's really to see Maslow in action. See, everything we do is for the satisfaction of one of our fundamental human needs. When you get higher up the chart, when we get to the self-actualization and the transcendence, that, of course, is when we realize, when we recognize that as human beings, it's not about us, it's not about what we feel inside, it's about how we fit into the wider universe, it's about who ultimately is in control of us, and that brings you into a study of theology or the concept of God, because even with Maslow, when you get to the top of the pyramid, unless you bring God into the picture, then you can't go any higher. You can't get to transcendence until you get to self-actualization, which is the realization that there is somebody or bigger than you that's in charge. Anyway, that's a sermon. That's a different topic. Everything we do is for the satisfaction of one of our fundamental human needs. And those needs are met when we start to fill the hole that we find inside of us. Even acts that seem irrational. Now, the example I came up with today was those homicidal idiots at Columbine High School. They call themselves the Trenchcoat Mafia. What's that got to do with Maslow? Their actions were subsequently proven to stem from a perceived need to belong and be accepted. That's a deficiency need. And do you get the thing here? It's not what the actual need is, it's what our clients, what our customers, what our friends, what our relationships, it's where people perceive the need. One of the things I had to learn in 25 odd years of counseling and cognitive therapy was this. I can't reach out to somebody where they should be. I have to reach out to them where they're at or where they perceive themselves to be, get them by the hand and gently lead them to the truth or where they need to be. That's called therapy. That's called healing. That's how people move on. But it's no good me reaching out to somebody, hey, this is where you should be, when they actually in their own mind are somewhere else. So we have to reach out to people, whether they're our customers, whether they're our clients, whether they're our family members, whether they're employers, we need to reach out to people in the place they perceive themselves to be, because then they'll learn to trust us and then they'll listen when we lead them to the place that they truly ought to be. So those guys at Columbine, the Trenchcoat Mafia, their actions were proved afterwards to stem from their perceived need to belong and to be accepted. That's that level 3 on Maslow. You can't feel good about yourself until somebody else feels good about you. And then they had a need to strike out at those who got in the way of the pursuit of that need. So they felt that they weren't loved, they weren't accepted, they didn't belong to anybody. And so they lashed out at the people that they perceived got in the way of that acceptance. Do you see how this stuff works on a very, very deep, powerful psychological level? Now, if you're looking to sell a product or a service, you absolutely have to appeal to the needs of your customers. So I'll ask you again, which needs do your product or services meet? Deficiency needs or growth needs? See, once you can answer that accurately, the first step of the sales process is to show the buyer that they've got a need for your product. In other words, you press the sore spot, and the next step is to intensify the need. That's twisting the knife, if you like. See, when you call out to your tribe, to your audience, to your herd, and when you address human need at the same time, the potency of mixing those two things together can be devastating in a good way or a bad way, which is why I may or may not teach part 2 of this. Got to know, if I'm going to teach you this stuff, you're going to use it for good, wholesome, healthy purposes and not to destroy or to hurt or to harm. So you might write something like, our product will save you time and money by automating your whatever it is. Imagine what you'll do with all this extra time. How much more will you accomplish, when you devote more attention to other opportunities? How much additional profit will that generate for you? Do you see how you're positioning yourself to win? You've linked your product or service to the meeting of a vital need: time, profit, success, and security. So never, I repeat, never make a sales pitch without keeping Maslow's hierarchy of needs in mind. How you do that consistently is what I do when I'm working with people one-on-one. When you discuss your thing, your chances of success will increase exponentially if you break down each benefit in terms of how it can satisfy your customer's specific basic need. I mean, better yet, lay out the facts and the benefits of your product or service so vividly that the customer can draw the conclusions for themselves. Here's the absolute truth. Everything we do is motivated by a desire to satisfy a certain basic need. Now, some of the needs that we have, if we're really honest, may not be healthy or wholesome or good for us. That's a whole different conversation. But everything we do, this is the total truth here, everything we do is motivated by a desire to satisfy certain basic needs. Let's say you have a problem with pornography. Just an example that comes to mind. Every time you switch on your computer and you're tempted to go off in one direction or another, it's motivated by the desire to satisfy a certain basic need called lust. Don't mean to be graphic, but I want you to understand what we're talking about here. So what's the sales application? Well, in every sales message you use, associate your stuff, your product, your service with the satisfaction of an essential human need. The need for belonging. What's the advert say? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Fly the friendly skies of United. Here's one that, again, I'm going to apologize for, but it's it makes the point. The need for sex. There was an advert, a famous commercial with a young Brooke Shields and wearing Calvin Klein jeans. And she said, nothing comes between me and my Calvins. Nothing. The implication there is that she was not wearing underwear. You think Calvin Klein sold a whole boatload of jeans to men on the basis of that? Sure they did. It was one of the most successful ads in advertising history. What's the specific action? Review all the copy that you use, whether it's on your website, your emails, your newsletters, and if the wording is so unprocessed and unfunctioned with little or no attention being made to basic human need, you need a major rewrite. Call me, I'll do it for you. Ensure that every word you use is aimed at satisfying at least one of those levels of basic human need. Here's the psychological mind control hack number 8, framing. Someone once quoted in the internet world the phrase, all clicks are not created equal. It's a rewrite, if you like, of that famous line from Animal Farm, all animals are not created equal. If you haven't read the book, you don't know what I'm talking about, doesn't matter. But a click that frames your site poorly is going to bring you a poor response. But a click that frames your site well is going to bring a receptive audience, customers and clients. Now, how people get to you is critically important. Think about your own buying habits. If you walk into a store that's dirty and badly organized and the employees are kind of rude or just don't care, and you're likely to walk right back out of the door. But by contrast, you're probably more likely to take out your wallet or your credit card in a well-lit, smartly laid out business with a crack staff that are really waiting on you hand and foot. And your landing page or your website is no different. It's real estate. You need to be thinking about how you can frame yours to amplify the message. So what's the absolute truth? Well, it's this. The way people to react to a message is highly dependent on the manner and the context in which it's presented. I don't use websites and things. All my stuff comes because people reach out to me from the presence I have online on Facebook or on one or two other platforms or by referral. That's how people get to me. And that's critically important to me and my business. What's the sales application? Well, success in marketing is affected by how well a product or service is packaged and presented. So what's the specific action you need to do? Well, you need to review all aspects of your site, your landing page or whatever, the copywriting, the visual elements, the way in which your material is organized to ensure that your message has authority and credibility. You know, that's the problem with the church at large. In the eyes of the people, the perception is the message of the church has no authority or credibility. That's why there was a bit of an outcry last week at a certain royal wedding in Windsor Castle in England when the head of the American Episcopalian Church preached for 15 minutes a dynamic message based on love and fire and the impact of love. In England, reading the newspapers, there was a lot of comment. Some was pro, some was against. It really shook theory to the core because all of a sudden he was somebody in a pulpit preaching a message not only with authority but with credibility. Now, if you need help with your website, I have a 20-question checklist that help that'll help. You can download it for free from my Patreon channel. Here's psychological mind control hack number 9. It's uncertainty. I judge the effectiveness of online marketers, and especially my clients, by how well they understand what they don't know. How well they understand what they don't know. See, too many people I come across think they know it all. And how they develop their strategies accordingly. And a lot of marketers or salespeople, particularly online salespeople, fall into one of 4 basic categories. Either, number one, those that really don't have a clue, but they think they understand everything. They think they know everything because they spend so much time on the couch watching TV. Then number 2, those are the people who've read a load of books. Maybe they've subscribed to a course or two, and thus they really do feel that they know it all because, hey, I bought all the next latest and brightest shiny objects. I've read everything from everybody, and yeah, I kind of know it. And then number 3, you get to people who realize that even the big boys are sometimes wrong, and they can't know everything for themselves until they test things. Now, a lot of marketers or salespeople get to that point, then they stop testing things themselves, even though they keep giving lip service to the concept of testing. Number 4 is the people that realize that even their own testing one ad against another, one copy against another, they realize that their own testing is very uncertain at best. See, very few people can admit that they can never be absolutely certain about anything. And the fact is, market testing, it can't ever be really truly scientific because there's just too many variables in play, and it doesn't matter how rigorous you are or how thoughtful you are or how you plan something out. The outcome of your testing is going to be affected by factors that you couldn't even imagine, let alone control. So what's the absolute truth? Well, nothing can ever be known for certain in terms of how your audience, your tribe is going to react, because the very act of examining something changes the nature of that entity that's been examined. Now, again, just taking my word for it with that statement, you need to think about it. The very act of examining something changes the nature of the entity being examined. See, I'll use my church application again. If I give somebody, or somebody gives me, say, St. John's Gospel to read, and I read it diligently from cover to cover, I then have got to change. Something has got to change because I've been given something to read. I now have another sort of information. I've got to make a change. I've got to accept it, and that might require me to make changes in my life, or I've got to reject it and say this is not for me. But either way, I have to change because I have to make a decision, because now something has been presented to me. And so the sales application of that is, you realize your best efforts at market testing shouldn't yield to a broad conclusion. You've got to be aware that there are always unknown factors. And so for a specific action, the best thing you can do is gather statistical data on your marketing efforts and use that data to develop a probability of success. You know, we all know how to use analytics and goodness knows what, but you have to maintain flexibility to change when unknown factors have unexpected effects on your efforts. Now, in terms of this mind control stuff, mind hacking stuff, Freudian slip, that's where I'm going to stop today. And I got a week to decide if I'm going to give you the keys to the nuclear warheads or not. See, if I'm going to show you how to fire your artillery in such a way that you'll render your tribe helpless and begging to buy, sort of obliterating the competition along the way, you know, as I said at the top, then you have to ask me, send me a message or put a comment, and I'll decide who, where, and when. But if I do, I guarantee this will be a private link. It won't be a Facebook Live, or we'll use Zoom or Skype, and we can screen share and whatever. And the problem is that this stuff can be used for less than honorable ethical purposes. When you're going to get into how people think and how people make decisions and approach them in a way to affect those decisions without them even noticing on a subliminal level, then there's a responsibility. You know, I spent a lot of years in school to learn this, but anyway, I'll think. You reach out to me and I'll think. On another note, before we wrap up, I really want to boost my other subscriptions to my newsletter, the new newsletter, Flight Manifest. Now, if you haven't seen a copy yet, send me, put an IM at the, private message in the comments below this, and I'll send you one straight over. But I'm going to make you an offer, and this offer is good for the rest of the week only. If you want to subscribe for a year, it's going to cost $180, which is $15 a copy. But for the rest of this week only, I'll send you my 12 video series on all things Facebook. is what you'll get. Number one, how to use Facebook Live to share value and build engagement. Building engagement is one of the things I've been talking about on Patreon and other things. I'm 2 parts into a 6-part series on that. Video 2, how to optimize your Facebook Live traffic, how to utilize Facebook Live as a sales funnel, how to generate more leads after your live stream, how to target and retarget a Facebook audience, how to build your Facebook pixel and event conversion, how to use the Facebook